Alright, so I finally finished up my water to air intercooler install on the Omni here, and I'll do a quick walk around of how everything's set up. In the rear of the hatch, in the tire well, I have my ice box. It hasn't been bolted down yet, but it takes 3 gallons of water to completely fill the entire system once you purge the water from here through the pump all the way up to the intercooler up there and then all the way back. It's 3 gallons of water. But the way I have it set up is the water pump right there goes straight down under the car, over the axle, not the axle, the trailing arm, all the way up to the front, goes to the top of the intercooler, goes out the bottom, loops around, and goes to the top of the heat exchanger, goes all the way across, goes back down, hits the bottom of the heat exchanger, runs back under the car, all the way back to the return line here. I have that because I've marked where the return was. And then here is my little drain. If I flip it forward, it'll drain all the water out of here. That's in case when I go to the track, if I fill it with ice water and the ice melts, I can drain it, put more ice in it, and I don't have to worry about overflowing and all that good stuff. But I'll show you how it's set up on my board here. It'll be a little bit easier to understand. So ice water is going from the pump down here to the top of the intercooler, where the intercooler heats up the water a little bit, and this is why I run the heat exchanger. The intercooler is getting hot air going through it from the turbo, so once cold water goes through here, it warms up a little bit. So I'm sending it back to the top of the heat exchanger where air hits the heat exchanger, cools it down to ambient temperature, because this is going to be much higher than what this is, because this is coming out of the turbo, this is hitting straight air, whatever the ambient temperature is. So water's coming through here, then it exits out, goes back to the top of the icebox here, where it just refills. So that's the way it works right there. And now I'm going to turn on the heat exchanger itself, or I'm sorry, the pump itself. I'm also going to be adding a little bit of ice in here, and we're going to see if we can make the intercooler itself actually start to condensate, because I've read on the forums that these will actually get so cold that it'll start to condensate. Let's see here real quick. So right now is completely dry, and then the icebox itself is also dry on the outside. So we'll see if we can't get it to condensate a little bit by throwing some ice in there. There we go. There we go. It's not a lot of ice, but it should cool it down a little bit. We'll go get some more ice and throw it in there. We'll see if we can't get it to sweat a little bit. There we go. Let's throw this in the box. Alright, that should be getting nice and cold. Alright, so the way I have this set up right now is it's just direct voltage to 12 volts. So I'll start cycling this through. There we go. Just cycling the water through. So we'll give it a couple minutes. Actually, we'll give it a couple of seconds. I can feel the water coming through the return line starting to get pretty cold. That's copper. Or not copper, brass, whatever it is. By the way, all the fittings and everything in the line I got from Home Depot. The hose that I'm using to transfer all the water straight to the intercooler and back is from Home Depot as well, and it's washer for your clothes, washer hose. So it's like $10 for 10 feet. There you go. So I'm going to pause this, and then I'll come back in about 2 minutes and see how it is. Okay, so I have it just kind of holding there, so it should be cycling through. All the ice is melted, and we can kind of see, or actually we can see, that the side of the ice box here is actually starting to condensate water. So let's go see if the intercooler is doing the same. And it looks like it is. I want to make sure I focus on it before. Yeah, the intercooler is actually getting condensation on it. And the heat exchanger is it's doing the same. So what is the advantage of going from air to air to water to air? The big advantage is you get to get your air charge temperatures below ambient temperature, so whatever the temperature is outside. And let me go close the or turn this off. Don't drain that battery. So imagine that you're at the track and you're sitting in the staging lanes, and the guy next to you, say you have the exact same car. Let's say one car has your air-to-air intercooler system, one has a water-to-air system. The water-to-air system is going to make your charge air temperature significantly lower than your air-to-air car, because your air-to-air car, when boost is going through it, his intercooler, it's only going to cool it down to whatever temperature is currently outside. So imagine that it's 95 degrees outside on the track, and y'all are both about to make a pass. If you have ice water circulating through your system, then you're going to cool your charge down to below what it is ambient temperature, whereas the guy next to you, he's going to be cooling down his intercooler to 95 degrees. That's as cold as it can get unless he starts moving, which could get up to, I'm sorry, down to maybe 90 or 85 if you're going fast enough with the air going through it. But 85 degrees compared to ice water, which is 32, 35, maybe 40 degrees after sitting in the staging lanes for a while, is much colder than what the air-to-air guy is going to get. So if you make your dense air, or your charge coming out of your turbo more dense, you get more power. And also you have the ability to hot lap the car. So that's just a little tidbit that I have on the air-to-air versus water-to-air debate or whatever. And the reason I'm running the heat exchanger, before I forget, is if you run the water straight from the ice box all the way to the intercooler and then just straight back to the ice box, your turbo is putting out, let's say, your turbo is putting out hot air. Let's say it's putting out 160 degrees. If it's going through the intercooler, yeah, it's cooling it down, but you're heating up the water that's going through it at the same time. So when you throw warm water back there, you're just warming up the water up to whatever degree or temperature your turbo's putting out. So what the heat exchanger does is it cools it down, kind of like a radiator. It cools that hot air from the intercooler that the turbo heated up. It goes to the heat exchanger, cools that water down by air hitting it, and just it returns it to the icebox back there. That's not to say that the water won't heat up, but it's going to delay the time that water heats up significantly. So I don't know, there you go. But yeah, there's my water-to-air intercooler setup on my Omni. So, yeah.